Podcast City Network.
Listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to The Everett Lee Show. A shot of entertainment to the head. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the entertainment.
What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Everett Lee Show podcast. I am Everett Lee. For more Everett Lee Show, check me out on Facebook, The Everett Lee Show, and on Twitter at TheEverettLeeShow. Well, I am back for another week with another podcast and another guest today on The Everett Lee Show. Before I introduce my guest today, a couple things I want to mention. Be sure to check out Podcast City Network 1 year anniversary on January 26th from 2 p.m. to 12 a.m. Live music with the Craig Thomas Project, food, drink specials, prize giveaways, huge announcements with live recorded podcast in front of an audience with shows such as the Everett Lee Show, Deathmatch Wrestle Podcast, Second Rounds Florida Edition, the Super Radio Brothers, and the Phoenix Gate Podcast. And on top of that, we have a special guest joining us on the anniversary. We have none other than the true master of wrestling ring music, Hurricane JJ McGuire. He is the composer of theme songs from WWE and WCW. He co-wrote a lot of the songs with Mouth of the South Jimmy Hart. He will be there as a special guest selling merch and a lot of surprises with Mr. Hurricane JJ McGuire. And this is all brought to you by Podcast City Network. Head over to podcastcity.net for the latest podcast and content on the network. And check them out on Facebook, Podcast City Network, and on Twitter at Podcast City Net. Right now, she is on the line. I want to welcome to the podcast today, female wrestler, the stubborn angel, Shawna Reed. How you doing, Shawna?
I'm all right. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. Pretty good. How was your new year?
It was very good. I pretty much, just actually stayed inside and drank with my family. So it was, kind of a more lazy new year, but it was a good new year.
That's good. That's awesome. That is. I've been checking you out on Facebook and Twitter, and you've been pretty busy already towards the end of 2018 and rolling into 2019. And with you being a wrestler, going to different promotions and stuff, and you traveling around, where did you grow up at?
I grew up and still reside in Fairfield, Ohio. I haven't really branched out just yet, which I'm hoping to change that by the end of the year. Nice.
And at what age did you get into professional wrestling?
Well, as a fan, I got into it about 8 years old. But then, everybody goes through that phase of they kind of outgrow it. And then it kind of came back to me when I was about 20.
Oh, nice. What did you watch growing up at 8? What was some of your early memories of professional wrestling?
I really I played the video games first. That's how I even found out it was a thing.
Oh.
I played those video games and because my brother forced me to. And then he would quiz me on the guys that come up on the screen prior to, the matches and stuff. And so I started watching it and became obsessed with larger than life superstars Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, Chris Benoit, people like that. So ever since then, it kind of, much to my parents' upsetness, became an obsession. And they kept buying me, the shirts, the different movies that would come out and things like that. But I would never get to go to an actual WWE event until I was 18.
Oh, wow. Well, so your brothers got you into it, and you're a gamer. Are you still a gamer nowadays?
Sometimes. I used to be every single day I would be on the PS2, on the PlayStation, on the Xbox, but Now I really don't have time because if I'm not training at the wrestling gym, I'm on the road for a show or, helping with my family. So it's definitely like put some time into not being able to game like I used to.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would get in the way there with you traveling and going to different shows and different promotions, and it when you do, you do. Now, with training, since you mentioned training, what was it like training with Cody Hawk?
It was the most painful and difficult thing I've ever done, and the most terrifying thing, because I walked in and I was the only girl in the class, and still to this day I pretty much am. A lot of the girls have come and tried and have left 2 to 3 weeks into the training. So I've been the only girl that's actually stuck it out. So.
Yeah, from what I hear and understand is that with the training and stuff, it's going to be for you or it's not going to be for you, and some people just they can't stomach it. They can't take the bumps. They can't take the endurance. And
exactly. I think people come in to wrestling training expecting the mat to be soft, expecting everything to be, it kind of be easier than it really is. And when they take that first bump in the ring and they're like, oh my God, like this hurts. Like this mat is not soft. It's pretty much wood covered by a very thin, extremely thin layer of something to make it the impact less painful, but it's all wood. Wood and metal is the ring. And any bump you take, it's pretty much going to be painful until, it sounds weird, but until your back gets used to it. And some people, I can't tell you how many people have told me oh, this is my dream. I'm going to stick this out. I'm going to, I'm living my dream. I'm going to go to WWE one day. I'm going to do all this. And then they're not back next training class and I never see them again.
I've heard stories about football players, like high school football players. They're like, I could play football, I could get in there, and I can do that, and then they find out, and it's like, nope, this ain't for me.
Exactly.
Wow. Yeah, it's something. That's one of my bucket list. Actually, get in a ring and actually take a bump. That's on one of my bucket list things to do. I just want to take one bump. That's it.
It'll blow your mind away, I'm sure.
It probably will. I'll be probably crawling out of the ring crying.
Oh, yeah, my brother, who was a high school football player, I made him get in the ring and take one bump. And he did, and, he got up and acted all cool and stuff like that. And then when we're leaving the wrestling center, he pulled me aside and said, Shawna, I my back actually really hurts. That freaking hurts. And I'm like, yeah, it's not easy. It's painful.
Wow. Now, being a professional wrestler and going around different promotions, I was checking footage out of you on YouTube, and I was looking up footage on Hardcore Heather Owens and Hartkopf, and I was looking at them, and I seen a lot of matches they had was with you. What was it like getting in a ring with Hardcore Heather Owens and Hartkopf and Jody Threat? We'll throw her in there. How is it like being in the ring with with those three entities?
Well, me and Hannah, we started wrestling together kind of at the very beginning of my career. So, and she was kind of super new too. So, we had decent matches, I wouldn't say that they were my best, but then me and Jody, we just recently have kind of started wrestling each other a lot. We wrestled each other once, a year and a half ago at War. And then, recently at Bluewater Championship Wrestling in Port Huron, we are starting a feud. And so I've been in the ring with her a few more times, and that girl is probably the strongest girl I've ever been in a ring with, other than Jessica Havoc. That girl, she is pretty much a really strong girl, and she can do a lot of things and a lot of bigger moves, a lot of the stronger things that you can see men do. So it's kind of cool to actually be able to work with somebody that can do that, because I'm a pretty tall girl, and I'm usually the one that has to do the power moves on smaller girls in the ring. So I never get to do the cool little flippy, that kind of stuff. And on her, me and her can do that. And Heather Owens she's pretty much my big sister and someone who I've looked up to ever since I first started wrestling. She took me under her wing. She pretty much, helped me out so freaking much in the beginning, and still to this day helps me out. She's one of my closest friends, and I can pretty much come to her for anything, wrestling-wise, personal-wise, anything. Heck, when I went through a car windshield in my street fight match, she was there, and she was the one. Her and Maria James are my wrestling mothers, and they were stitching me up in the back, with that that glue when I went through that. So she's definitely pretty much my inspiration to be not really in the hardcore matches, but
right,
just how she is as a person, and that with my wrestling career. So I hope someday she can look back and I make her proud.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it looks like she's stepping away from wrestling. February 2nd is going to be her last match. How do you feel about your thoughts on Heather Owens stepping away from wrestling?
It upsets me, I was supposed to have my last match with her on Thanksgiving, and then that show got canceled. So I won't get to wrestle her again, and it sucks. I mean, I know why she's doing it, and good for her, I'm happy that she's, this is what she wants and this is what she's doing. But as someone who has learned from her and has so much respect for her and legit loves her so much, selfishly, I want to wrestle her again before she retires. But unfortunately, it does not look like that's going to happen. I will be there on February 2nd for her retirement match. So at least I get to, kind of be a part of it and,
right,
get to see and witness it. So
that's awesome. That is. And speaking of Heather Owens, one of the matches I checked out on YouTube was with you and Heather Owens at CWAI on July 21st, 2017. That was a really good match. I loved how the psychological start out of that match, and then just getting into it and stuff. And then I definitely didn't expect the finish on that one with the roll up there. that was pretty cool. I really did enjoy that one. Yeah. And then the other match I checked. Oh, go ahead.
No, I wasn't saying it. I said, yeah, agreeing.
And then the other match I checked out with, you had Cody Hawk come to the ring with you, and it's where you wrestled Hartkopf, and that was really good match there. And I couldn't believe that was in a looked like a high school gymnasium, and I guess the coach or one of the faculties was the guest referee, and that place, man, that was packed. And that promotion usually has some big crowds and things like that. And if I remember correctly, that day Hannah was sicker than a dog. Oh yeah.
Yeah, when we were wrestling, she was so sick, and I was like, well, we could end this early, but she didn't want to.
Yeah, I couldn't tell. The match, both those matches stuck out to me when I was looking at stuff there, and I enjoyed both those matches there. They were really good. And what do you prefer more, being good or bad?
Well, I mean, everybody likes to have the crowd cheer you. I mean, it's a good feeling when they do cheer you. But I'm getting booked places as a heel, and I think it's because I'm such a tall woman.
Right.
and I'm way taller than most girls on the independent circuit.
Mhm.
And so, like, I also it's easy being a heel because, I can pretty much say one thing to a kid or like to a grandma or something like that and have the whole crowd hate me in like 2 seconds. So it's like that's helpful. And then, like, being a heel, you kind of lead a match more. And so I like taking the lead in things, especially in wrestling, to make sure it looks good and works out. So I don't know. I'm right now with how I'm kind of transitioning with my pretty little psycho character. Like, I'm pretty much a tweener a lot of places I go now because of
Right.
that. So, I don't know. I guess I like being both of them. I don't really like, either differently. So,
Mm-hmm. I enjoy you being a heel, especially with the match with Hana, because you had Cody there. It's always good to have that outside interference, distracting the ref, and you doing something dirty. And then the match with Heather Owens, that was really good too. Trying to get the outside interference, distract the ref so he can't see nothing. You're over there doing a legal choke. Or you have someone, or you distract the ref and you have the outside interference, do something. And the ref turn around and is like, what happened? I'm like, I don't know. And you go in for the cover. Yeah. I'd say it looks like you do have fun as a heel than a face. But now let me ask you now, if you're booked as a heel and you're going in, you got people cheering for you, do you play up to them or you just be a heel to them and just blow them off?
I mean, you're kind of your job is to shut everyone down,
right?
Pretty much. Like, so if someone's cheering for me, I'll be like, either I'll play into it and be like, oh, look, smartest people in the room, or I'll, if I'm feeling extra kind of like, heelish that night, I'll be like, I don't need your support or whatever, like, shut up. Because there have been shows where I've been a heel where I've gotten more applause than the babyface in the ring.
Wow.
And like, it was basically more, a heel crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can have those shows where, like, the crowd's more into the heels than they are the babies. And I've been on a few of those, and on those shows, you kind of, you have to try and, do something or, be more of a heel towards those people that are cheering for you. Now, if it's the opposite, where it's obvious the crowd's there for the baby, then the few people that do cheer for me, I will be like, look, these people are smart. You should be like them, like.
That's awesome. That is. That is. I mean, I do love a good heel. Just getting the heat on them and just blowing off the crowd, and then especially when you got fans cheering for you. It's like, we love you. It's like blow me or something like that.
Exactly.
It's like you blow them off. I was at a NXT event in Daytona, and it was back when Sasha Banks was still in NXT, and she was coming out to a match, and there was a fan like right there by the rail, and they're cheering for her as soon as she walks out, and she turns and looks at them. They're cheering, they're clapping, they're like, yeah, and they stick their hand out to give a high five, and she goes in like she give a high five, and she takes her hand and runs it back across her hair, and she throws her hand up at him, and just walks on to the ring. It was great. The crowd got a good reaction out of that, and it was awesome. It definitely was.
Yeah.
It definitely was. Now, what was it like winning the Bluewater Women's Championship title? What was that like winning the championship?
Well, they tend to say that I'm the unofficial women's title holder because the girl who held the title, she hadn't shown back up in the promotion for 2 years, but she was, or like a year and a half, and was the women's champion.
Right.
And like, she just hasn't come in and defended her title at all, and I was sick of it. And like, when I first joined that wrestling promotion, I would ask to work some of the girls that they had on the show, and I was told that I wasn't good enough yet to wrestle those girls. Huh. And so now I took it into my own hands, talked to the promoter, saying that there should be a fighting, defending women's champion. And
Right.
so I told me and the other girl that was on the show, we decided, and so did the promoter, that we were going to fight for the belt, so at least somebody there would, the belt would come back into relevance. And, whatever would happen, whoever walked out would be the new Bombshells champion.
Yeah.
And it happened to be me. And every month since then, I have been defending and, retaining that women's title belt and making it relevant. And the old champion who, has found out is not happy. And, says she's never relinquished the title, but she's never come back to, she has never come back to, defend it. And so until she decides to come back to defend it, I'm going to do her job.
Right. Right. You're a champion. You're a champion. You're going to defend the belt, and you're going to bring prestige to it, and that's what a champion does with the belt. Let me ask you: do you think the title makes the person, or does the person make the title?
I think the person makes the title, because you can put a title on anybody, and or they can get it, the cheap way. But the person has to be smart, and the person has to be, a fighting, defending champion, and that's what that belt's there for. It's the top person in the business holds it, the person that deserves it most, and, gets the belt. Like, that's what everybody in a promotion should be going after and aiming themselves after, to be the face of that business, and for my instinct to be the face of the women's division. And who, little girls, either if I'm a heel or a baby, they look up to. And, so I definitely believe that the person makes, the champion. Just, the belt is an accessory.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Excellent. I like that. Now, with you being a champion, you train with Cody Hawk. Now, you're part of a group called the 5 Most Wanted. What is it like being in a group, the 5 Most Wanted?
It is awesome. When I first started training, I really was, going, out singly, and I still do that.
Uh-huh.
But, when you're in a faction, especially with being the only girl in the faction, you're surrounded by, people, they're my brothers. They are my family, and they will do and have done everything to steer me in the right direction on where to go in my wrestling career. They've protected me from, fans and sometimes perverts.
Yes.
They have legit, there's one time that someone smacked me in the butt, and Cody went off. well, kind of threatened him at a show.
Wow.
And, and then that's the same with, the whole, my brothers that I train with.
Uh-huh.
We all went to Vegas to CAC one time, and we were on Fremont Street, and a guy got very handsy with me just walking by. He legit just walked by and, decided, he was going to, touch me.
Uh-huh.
And, I was with Bad Attitude Brian Beach and William Wolf at that time, and they're like, did he just grab your ass? And I'm like, yeah, he did. And he's like, oh, hell no. No one touches my sister. And, Brian Beach, stormed at the guy down Fremont Street, did you touch my sister? It's just, it's a crazy bond. But, to have, Big John Murray, who was, the security for Rock of Love, Brett Michaels and all that, to have, Sean Casey. Everybody knows the career Sean Casey has had.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Cody, who, we may have more of a personal relationship now, but when we first started out, we didn't.
Right.
He was just my trainer.
Right.
And then, now we have David J. Getz, and then Edible Michael Barnes and Eric Smalls, and it's just it's a huge family, and it's pretty amazing and what they've done for me in my, short career. So it's fun.
That's awesome. That is. I mean, it's always good to have a good wrestling, family and stuff. And that's one thing that drives me crazy is there's a reason why they have barricades, and there's a reason why the barricades separate the fans and the talent. And seeing stories and seeing stuff come up on social media about fans jumping the barricades and trying to become part of the show, that just burns me up, man. It's like you're there as a spectator. You're there to cheer, boo, and enjoy the wrestling that's going on in front of you. And it's just I don't know, man. It burns me up.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I may have the biggest feud and even a hatred towards the person that I'm wrestling in the ring. But if a fan gets in the ring and even doesn't even go after me but goes after them, I will mess them up. Yeah. You may have problems with the person you're in the ring with, but wrestling is a bond no matter what, and you'll protect the other person no matter what.
Yeah, it's like that story Stone Cold Steve Austin mentioned that him and they were doing a show over in Europe, and I guess he was at the time, it was a house show, and he was in the ring with Triple H, and
I saw that video.
Yeah, did you see that video?
Yeah, Triple H killed that guy.
I know, man. He killed him. And Austin, I like how Austin describes the story. He's like, he didn't even know what the heck was going on until he turned around. He's like, what the hell, And that is cool. I love it, man. I love it. I mean, there's, I even got at the time, with the heat and at the time back with the relationship that people felt about Roman Reigns, having that suitcase thrown at him in the ring, that was just, you don't do that. You don't fucking do that. Excuse my French, but damn,
No, you don't.
You don't.
I mean, I had a time where I was running after the babyface into the locker room, and an old lady tried to swat at me as I was leaving the thing. So I stopped and I looked at her, and she had a thing of nachos in her hand. So I, being a heel, I just flipped her hand, and the nachos went everywhere. And apparently that didn't do well with that little city in Kentucky, because they were all forming an angry mob outside of the place to beat me up. They boxed in my car.
Oh, man.
I had to wait 2 hours after the show. Jeez. And for all of them to leave. And then when I could finally get out, some of them were still there, but I had my hood on and had to be, security out. It was crazy.
You had your brothers with you too, didn't you?
I had Cody.
Yeah, I had Cody.
Yeah.
That's like some old school. That's some like some old school wrestling heat, man. I remember. I think it was Mean Gene or someone talking about Bobby the Brain Heenan having heat and him wanting to get out of there real quick and stuff, and having that type of heat, and hearing Jimmy Hart and Jim Cornette talking about having heat stuff back in the territory days, and it's just people got irate about stuff, man. And
that promoter was also a wrestler on the show, and he freaking loved it. He went crazy. He was so happy about it. But his wife, on the other hand, was not happy about it, and she called me every name in the book because I flipped nacho cheese on an old lady. And so ever since then, I guess I cannot be booked at that promotion anymore because of that guy's wife.
Wow. That's great though. I mean, it's come on, you flipped, you didn't swing at her. You knocked her food over, man. It's like knocking over a drink or something. It's whoops, I didn't see it.
Exactly. I meant to hit the nachos in the air, it just she'd drop it. But I guess the way it went, the nachos went over her, and I'm don't try to swat at me or try to hit me when I'm leaving the ring.
Exactly.
I'm sorry.
Hey fans, here at Podcast City Network, we have a lot of great shows. on all of our great social media outlets. PodcastCity.net.
Facebook.com/Podcast City Network. Hit that thumbs up. You can send a tweet to Podcast City Network on Twitter at Podcast City Net.
Only on Podcast City Network. You're listening to The Everett Lee Show.
Now, talking about Steve Austin over in Europe, I think it was, with the video we were just discussing there with Triple H. You've been over to England yourself, and how was it going over there for the first time for yourself? And you're going back here pretty soon. How's that? How's the whole experience with that right there, going over to another country and wrestling?
Well, I had never been out of the country at all in my life before this, and to go to, especially as far as England by myself, was very nerve-wracking. And then to go in December, I probably was not the smartest because it was freezing. And that was my only, complaint, because I am such like a history nerd and like a dark history nerd. And the Tower of London and like the whole story of King Henry VIII and like Anne Boleyn and all those are like, I'm huge like nerd into that stuff. And the Tower of London had been on my bucket list for like ever. And so when I went over there, I toured a little bit, went to the palace and went to a bunch of different places. But the last day I was there, I spent 8 hours at the Tower of London because I didn't know if I was ever going to be coming back.
Right.
And but I got to wrestle a girl from Lucha Underground over there. And then also I was in a triple threat, so I wrestled one of their girls from that promotion at British Empire Wrestling. And it was definitely a fun match. I was heel, obviously, because everything just happened with Trump in England. So they're like, oh, we're going to make you a heel. And I'm like, okay, why not? But I got super close with the promoter over there, Declan. He is a great friend and barely really even knows me, but like he has really been there for me in these past like 2 years. And it's been really cool. And so when the opportunity came to go back, like I jumped on it and, I won the match to qualify to go and represent, the United States in the International Grand Prix over there. And so that is going to be amazing. And it's in June, so it'll be a lot warmer.
That's good.
And I'm excited about that. And, I already booked my hotel, and me being the nerd I am, I booked the hotel that's right across the street from the Tower of London. So I'm like going to be like, it's even called the Tower Hotel. Like I'm like, I'm gonna go and be a freaking, now I know where things are. So before I have to wrestle, I'm gonna go and be a tourist.
That's awesome. That is. England has a lot of history, man. I mean, England has a lot of history. My cousin that lives in Tennessee, and years ago when I lived in Tennessee, his job was he worked for this machine company that basically that develops machine parts for big heavy machinery, and he got to go over to England there for about 3 months, and it was perfect for him because where he stayed at, it was just 10 minutes from where he had to go to work at. He just walked there every morning and back every at the end of his shift, walk back. He was in a little apartment above a pub. And so my cousin, he loves to drink, and right before he came back to the States, because when he came back to the States, we went over to see him, and we had a party for him and everything. And when I walked in the door, the guy looked like he got jumped. We were like, what the hell happened to you? And he started laughing. He said his last night there, he went out drinking. He went further out into the city than what he did before. And he hit some pubs, and he was drinking. And on his way back, he decided to take a shortcut down the road. He was walking drunk, plastered, and all of a sudden, he basically woke up in the middle of the road in a hole. Apparently, they were working on the road, and they had like a big hole in it, and it was dark, and he fell face first. He looked like Harvey Dent, two-faced, almost from Batman. We were laughing at him and stuff, and we're like, we're like, damn, man, what the hell happened to you? And he's like, thick Tennessee accent. My cousin, he's like, I fell in a hole in England. It was freaking hilarious.
That is wonderful.
It is. It is like, you go back, he's like, why, hell yeah, I'm going to hit those pubs again. I was like, that's my cousin, man. That's my cousin.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's like, it's funny how they view like Americans kind of, because my friend over there took me to this like restaurant, and it was like called, I don't remember what it was called. It was like Old West something. It was like some kind of, but it was like a American based restaurant. And like the tables were covered wagons, and the people that were the servers were wearing like cowboy hats and like things like that. And I'm like, and then one of the appetizers, no joke, the appetizers was donuts that you could, and then they brought you a little bowl of chocolate sauce and a bowl of sprinkles. I'm like, this is how they see America right now.
That is cool. That is. They nicknamed him, since he was from Tennessee, they nicknamed him Elvis.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, they called him Elvis. They thought he lived over next to Elvis, Graceland in Memphis. He's like, no, he lived in Knoxville, East Tennessee, but they still called him Elvis. They'd say, hey, Elvis. It's like, need you over here. Hey, Elvis. He was telling us. It was great. It definitely was great.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Now, since traveling, going to England and going back and going all over the place, opportunities has happened for you. What was it like for you working for WWE, for Raw and SmackDown? I remember seeing you on SmackDown. I couldn't believe it was you, because Robin Nilsson pointed out to me. I was like, that is Shawna. Tell me about those experiences about that. I'm interested in that.
I've gotten to work for WWE 9 times since I've started my wrestling career.
Wow.
Raw, SmackDown, NXT, got to be there and be backstage to witness the first ever women's Money in the Bank, did Survivor Series, and I was there, I think, for Hell in a Cell once. But it's legit kind of like, it's like a little dream come true for you, even if you're just doing extras work, because like me, when I joined wrestling, I had 3 goals, and that was to wrestle out of the country, wrestle in a WWE ring, and then make an impact on women's wrestling. Mm-hmm. So I've gotten to do the first 2. But the first time I stepped into a WWE ring, I had the most god-awful tryout match I've ever had in my life.
Oh, no.
The worst match I've ever had. And I thought my opportunity was over. Like, I was like, well, they just saw how terrible I was. I'm never coming back. I've been back 8 times since then. But anyways, after I rolled out of the ring and I sat on the apron, and it's nerve-wracking because all the WWE superstars come out, and all the talent relations guys, and like AJ Styles, Dolph Ziggler, like all these people are sitting out there watching you have a tryout match, and then some of them will snicker, some of them will react to the things you're doing, some of them will think it looks completely stupid, and so it's nerve-wracking. Mm-hmm. But like, as I sat on that apron, I looked up real quick before I, got off the ring, and on the SmackDown, camera up at the top, like, the widescreen was a replay of something I did in the match. Mm-hmm. And like, I'm just like, you know what? I could never come back here. Everything would be fine. Like, I just wrestled in a WWE ring, and that just happened. Like, that was everything to me. And, since I've been back, they've gotten to know me better. Like, some of them even know me by my first name. I even have, some of their numbers on my phone. And, when I went this last time, it was into Los Angeles, and it was for Survivor Series. And, there was 16 extras there. It was so many of us. And usually there's only 2 girls and maybe 4 guys.
Right. And
there was so many of us this time. I'm like, oh my God, any chance that I would get to do something is not going to happen. Mm-hmm. And I was the only girl that was chosen to do things out of all of them. And it was really cool. And when I got to be, the paramedic for Rey Mysterio, and yes, the whole Randy Orton and Rey Mysterio mask thing, mm-hmm, running down that ramp, is like, I'm like, I don't care. Like, I'm pretending like this is my entrance, like you run down that ramp and you think of things, you look at all the crowd while it's happening. And, like I had to keep an eye on Randy because I couldn't get hit just in case, if he decided like he was going to reattack Ray, or if he,
Right.
if anything happened. I was told to watch myself before I went out there by Devon Dudley. He's like, I don't give a crap if the other guy gets hit. If anything happens, if you get hit, then I'm in trouble. So I didn't know what I was going out there for, but my main focus was I had to keep Ray's face covered.
Right.
Because Randy stole his mask.
Right.
And that's more of a stress than anything. Like, like this is like Rey Mysterio, and I'm responsible for keeping one of my childhood heroes, keeping his identity, covered.
Yeah.
And it was crazy, like so nerve-wracking, and like getting to do that with and be out there was awesome.
That is, when I was watching the episode, I was watching that episode, and when you ran out there, I was looking, and I was like, she looks familiar. I was like, who is that? I was like, that's not a paramedic. And then Robin pointed it out, and I was like, that's okay, because I've seen you. And it's just I couldn't put the name at the time because I was so caught up with everything that was going on and stuff. And then when you came out there, I'm sitting there looking, watching everything that was going on. And then I've seen you, and then I looked, and I was like, she looks familiar. Who is that? And then Robin pointed out and gave you a shout out there on, I think it was like Twitter and Facebook. And I was like, yeah, that's Shawna Reed. I was like, wow, that is awesome, man. That is. It's cool, to see someone that you've watched matches on and actually be part of doing something for an angle for WWE, which is great. It's just fantastic. It is.
Yeah, it was fun.
It is. Robin Nilsson got on today on Facebook Live. You're laughing. I got a question I'm going to ask you at the end of the show. I got a question that Robin wanted me to ask you, but we're going to hold off on that, Shawna.
Yes, I'm his favorite wrestler, so we can just continue. I answered the question.
Yeah, he wanted me to ask you. He said you're his favorite wrestler. Can you elaborate on that?
That's it. Because, well, one day I was wrestling Hana, and he, decided he was going to become a big Hana fan, and not for a reason that he should be. He's a Hana fan not because she's a decent wrestler, but I bet you could understand why.
Yeah.
For the other reason that he's a Hana fan. And so I called him out on it. And in the last match that I've had with her up there, I saw Robin sitting front row, and I threw Hannah out of the ring in front of him and went up to him and started beating her up right like in his lap, pretty much, like screaming at him like, who's your favorite wrestler now? I'm going to pop her fake boobs, things like that, like right in front of him and on his lap and things like that. So ever since then, he loves the love-hate relationship that we have.
You wanted me to ask you about the love-hate relationship, so all right.
Well, he loves me, and then, I, hate him, so it kind of works out.
Yeah. That is great. Yeah, he got on Facebook today, and he was there's a thing going on in Hamilton, Ohio about Future Great Wrestling. There's been some stuff going on about that. What are your thoughts about Future Great Wrestling coming to Hamilton, Ohio? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's an amazing promotion, and we have been, we were shut down a week before our first show because there is a retirement community across the street from us. And what they have basically said is completely absurd. They said that they were afraid to walk their dogs, that we would come into their house and murder them, that we would do drug deals on their property, that we would jump in their lakes, mess up their deer trails, hang out in the parking lot and turn up like music and party till all hours of the night. There would be so much traffic apparently, and we would park in their places, and it's absurd. And like now their newest thing was they are afraid that we're going to have big RVs in the parking lot. And one, it shouldn't matter if we did, but we're not going to because we're not WWE. We don't have RVs.
Right.
Because that's our parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, so they shut it down. And tonight there is the appeal to it. And myself and a bunch of, the people that are on the roster are going there to, speak out against it. Right. And, the prejudice that's pretty much been, handled to us. Mm-hmm. And they said that the biggest thing was the parking. When they had a city council person come out and count the number of parking spots, and we're expecting like 200 fans, and there's like 250 parking spots. Wow. So there really isn't like, a problem there. But, one of the girls that lives in the retirement community is on the city council, so she pretty much got her way. Mm-hmm. And, so we're going there tonight to fight for what we, believe in and, make our statements known. And even for them to see us, because they didn't even see us. Like, they are expecting, like, completely different than what we are and what we have done in the past for the community. And I personally can't wait to go up there and do my speech, because I think they're going to be surprised that a, small girl is a wrestler. Like, they're expecting like these, Hulk Hogan's and things like that, and that's not, what we are. And we've even, we've donated, we've had canned food drives, we have charity shows, we've donated money to St. Jude's. We participate in an autism event every single year, and they've pretty much kind of like dehumanized us as like these monsters without even, seeing us and like getting to even meet us or like, so, tonight's going to definitely be emotional, and it's kind of nerve-wracking because it decides our future tonight. No pun intended. And, it also, kind of, it's more personal for myself and my family, because if, this does not go through, we've spent so much money, Brian has spent so much money into renting that place, and that's where Cody trains. If we, don't go through, then the training's done. Right. And everything's done, and the ring is going to be sold, and, it's pretty much over for, that. And that's something I definitely don't want to see. And I know a lot of people that don't want to see that. So I'm hoping for the best tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it kind of reminds me of what happened back in July of 2014. Me and my wife, we went to Tampa for Battleground. WWE Battleground came to Tampa, and my wife wanted to go to a WWE pay-per-view, so we went. And it was cool that we got to stay right next to the hotel, right next to the venue. And the night of, we just basically left our hotel, and we're like, bam, right there. And we were waiting in line with everyone else, and there was this guy. He was with a megaphone, and you could tell his wife didn't want to be there, and his kid didn't want to be there. He's yelling on the megaphone, talking about how sexist and how provocative that WWE is and everything, and just all this stuff, and people's looking and stuff. And I spoke up and I said, I guess he didn't get the memo. The Attitude Era is over. And everyone started laughing. I was like, really? It's like he must, not realize that it's PG now. It's like TV4. It's not TV14. It's like, someone tell this guy the Attitude Era is over. It's like,
yeah, I don't know with how WWE is recently, but I think they're trying to bring the Attitude Era back because they're very nervous about AEW.
Yeah, they are. But you know what? I look at it in this type of way, that at least now they're actually stepping it up from what the product has been, and just hearing.
Definitely, it's a better show, and by what I've seen, better matches.
Yeah, they're definitely stepping it up now, which is great, because I think with the announcement of AEW that it's like, okay, we better step up, we better do this and do that, and that's good. That's good, because I'm interested to see what's going to be happening next now. Monday night, opening segment I thought was great. Last night on SmackDown, I thought the opening segment was great with Becky Lynch. That was awesome. I love Becky, and just watching her from NXT and getting to meet her a couple times before when she was starting out, and seeing where she is now, it's awesome. I've been following her career, and I do believe that with AEW, making notice of saying we're coming, and this is what we're going to be doing. WWE is like, okay, we got to change some things, and that's great. That's great. Another wrestling promotion you wrestle for is Battle on the Border. I was wrestling for that promotion.
I like Battle on the Border. It's fun. It's actually one of the few places I'm actually a babyface at. So there's that too. But like, I've been there from the very beginning. Really missed like maybe 2 or 3 shows because I was booked elsewhere. But like, I really like their crowd, their promotion, their locker room. And I've been pretty much in a feud with Jocelyn Navarro for almost 2 years now. So
wow,
it's that's been fun. So they just kind of made a women's title. So and Jocelyn is the champion, and we basically started another feud this last time that we were there. So I'm excited to see where it goes. Nice.
That's awesome. That is. I see a lot of things with Battle on the Border, and I like seeing the stuff that they put out there, and just I hear a lot about it from Robin, and he's a big supporter of Battle on the Border, and I think it's a great promotion. I think it's great, and the talent I see that's talked about on Twitter and on Facebook, it's just fantastic. It is. It definitely is. One last thing I want to ask you about is I want to know more about your feud with Charlie Cruel. Can you tell me about that?
I wouldn't really call it a feud. I'd call it, Charlie is very new and very green in the business, and she is one of those people who thinks she immediately should, win every match, and, should, think she deserves things. And when it deserves these opportunities that, like, people have worked years for to get. So, like, a few times she's brought my family into, situations and said some things, and it just, isn't cool. And like, with a few other girls that I wrestle with, like, she has pretty much started kind of digging a hole with some of the girls in the business, and now I've heard with some guys in the business, and like, really, like, it's time to, be quiet and just listen and learn, and not like do this attitude that you have, So we have no upcoming matches together, which I'm kind of happy about, because I'm like, I'm like done tired of, consistently, wrestling her and, kind of, beating her. So like, until she, gets respect for this business and respect for the people that are in front of her, like, I don't want to step in a ring with her.
Right.
So we'll see how that goes.
All right. What upcoming events do you have going on for you that people can catch you at or see you live in action?
Well, I was scheduled in Quincy, Illinois this weekend, but with all the snow and everything like that, the show actually just got canceled today. So I won't be in Quincy for anybody who was up there wanting to go. But next week I'll be in Indianapolis wrestling my sister, Haley Shadows. I think it's for Bobo Brazil Jr.'s promotion. I just got booked on that, so I don't really know the name of that promotion as of at the second. And then that next week I'll be at War in Lima, Ohio. And so you guys can definitely catch me in many different states within the next few months. I'm booked all the way up until about the 1st of May.
Wow.
After the first week of May. So I'll be definitely around many different places in that time. So just check my Facebook page and check my Twitter and all that stuff, and you'll see where I'm going to be.
And what is your Facebook and Twitter? People can find more of you at.
My Facebook, you just type in my name, Shawna Reed. My Twitter handle is Shawna Reed 93, but bear with me on Twitter because I'm totally not into it, and it usually takes maybe a little bit slower updates for me. And then my my Instagram is Shawna _Reed, and now I'm even having Snapchat where people can follow me, and it's KAY0993, and people can follow me on Snapchat.
That is awesome. That is. Before I close, I want to mention a couple things. I want to mention about Podcast City Network. You can head over to podcastcity.net and you can catch the Everett Lee Show and many, many more shows and content on podcastcity.net. You can follow Podcast City Network on Facebook and on Twitter at podcastcitynet. And if you like what you heard today, you can catch more Everett Lee on the following. You can subscribe to the Everett Lee Show on Stitcher Radio. Download that app for your smartphone and tablet. Listen, iTunes. Leave a review and a comment on iTunes. And you can check the Everett Lee Show out on YouTube, on the official Everett Lee Show YouTube channel. And that is pretty much it for the Everett Lee Show. Shawna, I want to thank you for coming on today as I hit this outro music.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. No problem. Be sure to check out the Everett Lee Show next week for a new guest and new content, as always, on the Everett Lee Show. Everett Lee signing off. Have a great day and have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.